Right then, time to discuss Lucas Paqueta. We've got a few different stories. We've got his fitness. Could David Moyes be forcing him back before he's ready? We've got Manchester City wanting him again. We've got these betting allegations. We've got the Brazil squad. There's a lot of stuff going on about Paqueta over the last few days. Now, I must stress, these are all reports, and some sources are weaker than others. Anyway, Gonzo, in regards to the betting allegations, reports over the last couple of days are, first of all, that the FA are going to charge him. Basically, they don't want to decide. They don't have enough evidence. So what they're going to do is charge him. Then a 3-man panel will look at the evidence, or lack of it in this case, and decide whether or not to take action and punish Lucas Paqueta. But on the other half of the rumours, the stories, is that Lucas Paqueta's team are getting ready to sue the FA over loss of earnings because he was unable to join Manchester City.
Yeah, I think the FA move is a reaction to the former move. So I think the whole premise of possibly the legal argument would be, you have not charged me. You've had my career hanging in limbo. I've not been able to join Manchester City.
I've had to play under David Moyes for 8 months.
Absolutely. I had to drop from, I had to even pretend to be injured, so I don't play for him anymore. I've been dropped from the Brazil squad, yet you still haven't charged me. You have put me in a position where my career. So I think that legal move has prompted the FA to, do you know what, we are going, even our case might be weak, we're going to charge you to try and at least mitigate some of that. Because if he is going to try and hit them for loss of earnings, then they either need to sort of prove that either they need to prove him guilty or limit the loss of earnings. And by limit loss of earnings, by charging him now, so that he basically could only claim loss of earnings up to the point where they charged him. So yes, if they haven't got enough evidence, last thing they want to do is somebody millions of pounds to let that drag on for another long time. I do have some level of sympathy actually with the FA on this, because they have to do all of the Premier League's dirty work without even getting any of Premier League's money. And yes, they do get a little handout by the Premier League. But as I understand it, even though the Premier League are even creaming off some of the profits where the FA are selling the rights to the FA Cup, and almost the Premier League are acting as brokers to do that. So, yeah, look, this is why that government thing was brought in as well. The FA are completely underfunded and actually quite impotent, actually, and are relatively powerless. They're meant to be governing the game. They don't. They're in charge of referees. They're in charge of the national team. They're in charge of grassroots football, and they're in charge of implementing the rules of the game. But realistically, the Premier League and to a degree the football leagues are so powerful. They should really be implementing this stuff, because what the FA are basically doing is charging him for something that's happened in Premier League games. So, I think the Premier League are getting away with this very, very nicely, actually. But I just think there's a legal battle going on here, whereby, we'll see who's got the best solicitors, I think.
For the other part of the reports is that Lucas Paqueta has cooperated from day one with the investigation, handed over his personal devices such as his phone and laptop, and they've still yet to find any concrete evidence that Lucas Paqueta is guilty. And the only thing they've got is circumstantial, that someone or people placed large stake bets on Paqueta and 8 other players to be booked. Both players were booked on more than one occasion, and these people won a large part of money off it. That is what happened. Then they've got to prove Paqueta knew about it and took part in it, and he's guilty. And that's the part that, by the sounds of it, they cannot prove, but they're going to charge him, as Gonzo said, in order to save face and to fend off what they've now got a new legal battle on their hands, is because Paqueta's team are now going to sue the FA because of how long this investigation is taking. They've got a duty to investigate it. They have to. They absolutely have to investigate it, but they've just found nothing whatsoever. Do you think part of the Paqueta's team potentially suing the FA to try and get this hurried up so it's concluded prior to the summer transfer window opening? And it's not necessarily a case of what's happened previously, loss of earnings may be the reason they're suing him, but do you think it's the real intention is so that he's available to move to Man City or any other club in the summer?
100%. This is a political move. It's not a financial one. I'm very, very sure about that. He's doing all right. Don't worry about that. It's not about
especially
loss of
when
earnings.
He gets booked, allegedly.
That's right. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Got a little bit extra. little bit of a side hustle, as they say. But that is allegedly and a joke, obviously. This is exactly it. That he wants his move. He wants his move to Manchester City. It's not all about David Moyes, obviously. It's about ambition. Look, if you got, he didn't grow up in Canning Town, did he? Do you know what I mean? Not from Custom House or anything like that. He didn't grow up dreaming to play for West Ham and Manchester City at the moment. Until they get their collars felt by the FA, they are currently the best team in Europe and the best team in the country. So he's going to want to go and play for them, and he would enjoy playing for them. And also, I think the thing is for him, you can see a place when De Bruyne doesn't play. You can see a place in their team for him as well, and I think he can probably see that as well. Yes. I'm obviously going to segue into what we're going to talk about, but yeah, I think it's a political move rather than a financial one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, all these reports that we're discussing came from different sources, but they all kind of joined together in one big story, really. And I've got the same conclusion as you, which is the Paqueta's side team are looking to take control of this investigation, saying, right, well, you've had all this time, you've done nothing. We need this wrapped up before the summer transfer window opens. So we're going to now threaten to sue you, or pretend we're going to sue you, maybe via our social media leaks, and that's hopefully going to hurry up your investigation so he can be found not guilty because you've got nothing on him. And as a result, if Man City wish to come in for him in the summer, they can do, because they don't have this hanging over his head anymore. Because ultimately, if it wasn't for this investigation, he'd be a Manchester City player today. The deal was all but on. I mean, to be fair, David Sullivan, when you demanded 85 million plus Cole Palmer, that looked like a good deal. But now we've seen how good Cole Palmer is. You look back thinking, crikey, that would have been all right. He's got his minimum fee release clause in his contract this summer. It wasn't valid last summer. Yeah. That was a negotiation. This summer, it's valid. And I believe it's valid for this summer only. And it's possible that there's an expiry date on it during the summer that come, I don't know, the 10th of July or something. It will expire. Usually they have dates so that you can't go on transfer deadline day in August. Man City can't just come in and take him for 85 million. So there's probably going to be a date in the summer at some point where this 85 million ends. So they're under a little bit, Paqueta's team's under a bit of pressure to get him this move if he wants it. And I can understand why he would. I don't think he'll be at West Ham next season, regardless of manager. I think we could go and employ Xabi Alonso. I don't think we will. It's just an example. We could go and employ Xabi Alonso, and I still think Paqueta will want his move to Manchester City. And I can't blame him. I cannot blame him whatsoever. And I think this is his team making sure he does get that move. 85 million. I mean, there was a lot of reports a couple of weeks ago. There's quite a few clubs looking at him, which I dismiss most of them. And I think this is where you can tell some reports are rubbish, because it had Aston Villa in there. Well, Aston Villa are treading carefully with FFP at the minute. They can't afford to sign someone for 18 million, never mind 85 billion. So that one I don't believe. I think it's all Man City. Man City want him. He probably wants that move. I completely agree with you. This, when you look at their team at the moment, Nunez, he's done okay. He hasn't not really fitted in that good. Kovacic has had spells, but again, hasn't looked that great in there. Man City's recruitment over the last 3 seasons or something hasn't been that brilliant. Calvin Phillips been one of them as well, where it's not really been good value for money. De Bruyne, unfit for most of the season. He's come back now, but they're having to manage his fitness carefully. Missed the game against Brentford because Pep's keeping him under wraps, understandably. So Paqueta is needed there. 85 million. Get rid of this betting allegation and deals on, I think, as far as they're concerned. Now, the other smaller bit of news, perhaps, you had a chit-chat with the new Brazil manager last week, Gonzo. Brazil manager now, who's taken over, wants to be in his squad for the international friendlies in March.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, and why not? I mean, I guess there's only 3 things that can be possible here. Either he is innocent, in which case he's going to be totally affronted. I would have to right ump, I've got to say. Or he's obviously guilty, in which case I think you'd be a little bit tentative. Or he's guilty as a third one, which is basically he might have done something, maybe not gone the whole hog, but he's so confident that he's got a clean pair of heels on it, if you want. That he knows he's probably not going to be touched, in which case that might be giving him confidence. Actually, I can push this forward. Any of those things are going to be conveyed in his sort of mannerisms and the way he talks to anybody. And so I think if two of those three, are true, then he's going to be saying to this Brazilian manager with confidence, "Don't worry about it. It's not going to come back and bite you on the arse." And I don't know if they need him. I think I'd certainly heard that there were some ramblings, but with some of the Brazilian fans wanted him back, and maybe they'd not been at their best without him. And I would, sometimes that's the thing with absence, isn't it? Absence makes you realise, what you're missing. And I think immediately, particularly at the start of the season, once he got kicked out or banned or whatever, suspended from the Brazil team, his form for West Ham was exceptional. I mean, that was him at his best. He was better at the start of this season than he was for us last season. And I think, and I think actually even the Premier League, and the Premier League is world football because everyone's got their eyes on the Premier League. I think the Premier League stood up and took notice and, wow, this player is amazing. The link to Man City would have fed into that, would have put more eyes on him because people would say, oh, this is the guy that Man City were close to buying. And I think it says an awful lot that Man City, I think, were prepared to push that deal through, but stopped short of fully pushing the Declan Rice deal through. So it does show he's a high profile. So I'm not surprised the Brazilian manager wants him to play.
I think it's a good thing for Paqueta, to be honest with you, to get back into the Brazil squad, because I think sometimes we, not intentionally, I think we forget about the mental health side of footballers, and there's this perception that they get paid so much, so what? Which I think is dangerous and wrong. But that's why when I spoke about Kudus to you the other day, I said we can't underestimate how bad it was for him to get knocked out of the African Cup of Nations. He looked heartbroken in that interview. Well, Paqueta being kicked out of the Brazil squad, when you've got this going against you and these betting allegations, and if he is innocent, it's already going to be hurtful, but then to get kicked out of the national squad as well is because, hang on a minute, I've not done anything here. Why am I getting punished? Why am I not involved in this? I've done nothing wrong, and I'm getting knocked out of this because a handful of people put bets on me to get booked, and I got booked pretty much every week anyway. Doesn't get booked so much since the allegations, which is a bit of a unhelpful coincidence. But if he was innocent, that would have hurt him. That would have upset him. But like you said, his reaction in a West Ham shirt has been fantastic. But to get back in the Brazil squad, I think would be such a relief for him. And I don't know how the Brazil fans are, but if it was certainly a player I supported came back into the fold. I mean, look at Ivan Toney. The guy's been treated like a hero. He was guilty of betting, and he's been brought back into the fold by Brentford fans as if he's a hero. Sky Sports have been bigging him up. Look at this guy. Hang on a minute. This guy was actually guilty of what he did. So when Paqueta takes the field, you'd imagine he'll get welcomed back like a hero. But like you said, they've missed him. West Ham could benefit, short term, West Ham could benefit from that. And arguably, it may, hike the price up. It's an 85 million release clause, but it wouldn't do us any harm going into the summer having a Brazil international in the squad. At the minute, we've got a bit of a Brazilian international, but we've got somebody that's back in the squad there playing with all his international teammates at the best on the biggest stage of the world. And then brilliant. I think it's good for Paqueta, and I think we might benefit from that, because even if he's just had these talks last week in London and the manager said to him, you're going to be in that squad for March, I'd imagine Paqueta is buzzing off that. I'd imagine he's running around, limping around training with his chest puffed out, thinking I'm in the next Brazil squad. That's got to be a big boost for him. Probably also suggests that because everybody's done their own investigations. Brazil would have done their own investigations into this, and they obviously feel confident enough he's not going to get charged or not going to be found guilty to bring him back in. We obviously feel quite confident that he's not going to be found guilty, although the West Ham are worried he'll get charged. But being charged and being found guilty are two completely different things. Of
course, for sure.
So there you go. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to talk about Paqueta before it disappears?
No. Just I think how much we have relied upon him, and what I do feel is, Paqueta can probably leave with his head held high, because he will look back. His stock has risen. I just want to say this: I don't think he's been hard done by at West Ham. I don't like it when it's painted out like he's been held back and all the rest of it. I think it's really important to understand that he was a high profile player, and he went to AC Milan, and he was expected to be the best player in Europe, and it didn't happen. And he's had to rebuild his career, and West Ham is a big part of that. And he came here and he won a trophy. And, and he played a big part in that final as well. And I think he can leave with his head held high and say, well, you know what? I've done my bit. I've made you some money as well. I've helped win you a trophy. And I think it's moving to West Ham has been good for him. I think that's my point. It's actually increased his profile despite everything that's happened. I think I'm not entirely sure. I think without West Ham, there's not necessarily a transfer to Man City. So I think it's worked out well for him.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that because at the end of the day, everybody could see Paqueta at Lyon. Everybody had the same games to watch, had the same data at their fingertips. It was us that decided to go and get him and pay that transfer fee to get him. He was strongly linked to Arsenal and Newcastle at the time as well, but it was us that went and got him. And, Man City are in a luxury position where they can allow Paqueta to go to West Ham and say, well, if he works out, we'll just go get him from West Ham. It's fine. We'll just go get him. And like you said, that's going to get him his move. And that's probably why Paqueta joined West Ham, thinking if I go to West Ham and do well there, one of the English Champions League clubs will come 100%. Get him and I'll get my move. And everybody wins, really. Yes, we'd be losing one of our best players, but we'll be getting 85 million. And if Scarfman can do his job, hopefully we can reinvest that money correctly in the summer. Be one step back, but you can take 2 steps forward. And this is obviously a manager conversation to one side here in terms of the playing squad. 85 million is a lot of money to spend. Just if we can hold out and get that 85 million. Anyway, there you go. There's your updates on Lucas Paqueta. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on the video by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Hammer's Chat, myself and Gonzo. Catch you in a bit.